What is up YouTube? My name is Sam and I work under the artist name of Kayo. So this week I wanted to take a look at how I write melodies in my tracks, and as well as that, how I write counter melodies. Now this is something that was requested in my community page, so if you do have any ideas or videos that you want to see me make or subjects that you want to see me talking about, drop a comment on any of my videos or head on over to the community page where I regularly post asking for ideas and submissions of what you guys want to see on this channel. So let's jump into FL Studio and we'll take a look at how I write my melodies. So here we are in FL Studio and I've got here a really simple chord progression. This is just a 4-bar loop that I've come up with on the Imagiro piano plugin, simple chords. And I'll play that for you now and then we'll take a look at how to add a melody to this. Just really simple, but just a real basic start of a track. There is nothing else going on here, just this piano. Now the first thing that I normally do once I've got a chord progression down is I start thinking about how I can add a little bit of movement and a little bit of melody to this, because at the moment it is quite static and it is quite bland. So what I'd usually do is take some of the notes, start adding middle notes to the chords. So let's have a little look. And all I'm doing here is just adding in a couple of extra notes to those chords to really make them come alive and add loads of movement. And a little tip for this is you'll notice that I'm actually using a lot of the same notes that I already have in my chords. So I've got this A root note here, and then I'm just sticking in an A at the top here. Then I've also got a B root note, and we're just adding another B. You know that note is going to work with that chord. And then once you get a little bit more comfortable with that, you can start playing around with adding in notes from the scale, or even adding in notes that aren't in the scale. If you're going for something maybe a little bit more jazzy, you're adding a suspended note or something like that. And it's really just a case of playing around with the notes that you're adding until you get something that you like. So now I'm pretty happy with what I've got here. What I think I would normally do next is expand this into an 8-part progression. And that way what you can do is really start to evolve your melody and start to add in a second part. You can start to move it higher up or lower down in the octave to add a little bit different feeling to the second part, or you can keep it the same and just edit the chords ever so slightly. So what I'll do here is just grab everything and drag it over. So what I'm going to do now is take all of those extra notes that I've added and I'm going to put them in their own piano roll, just so that I can really clearly see the melody we've added and start tweaking it. And then we'll just remove anything here that is a chord note. So now I've got these two sections. What I can start doing is just moving that second section around ever so slightly so that I get two different parts here. Now this first section is quite flat, so what I think I want to do is keep the melody moving in the second part. I might move it up and then bring it back down rather than keeping it fairly flat on that A note. So instead of that A at the start here, what you can do is play maybe the D, and then we'll go up to the E, and then let's see how that sounds. So you're going to swap those around, I think. Not too sure about that D note, so let's pick, what do we have there? An F sharp. Let's try and chuck that in. And then because there is quite a big difference here between going from this A note up to this E note, what I'm going to do is add a little like step from that to there. So we're going to add like a B and then a D there, just to And there we have a fairly simple piano chord and melody progression. And you see what I did there was kept it moving, but in the end, I brought it back down to that root note of that A. And then what that does is it means that you can easily loop back into the start of the progression here. Let's add a guitar sound to the track. And this guitar isn't necessarily going to be a counter melody to that piano, but it is just going to be another melody. And you'll see here we now have a whole load of ghost notes that we can use to guide this other melody and any other melodies that we add to the track. And we know that they're going to be in scale, they're going to fit in with what we've already got. It's just a case of finding the right notes to work with what we've got already. So to start with here, I think what I'll do is just start putting in some really basic melody from the guitar, and then we'll start trying to tweak it and maybe getting more complex with it if we feel that it needs that. So this A note here isn't really working, so let's try and find a new space for that. We can see here that we've got a D, so I think I'll try that D note first. That doesn't really work either. I do think we need to go either a little bit lower or much, much higher. So let's try the C note. That's out of key, so let's keep playing around until we find something we like. Right, so I think we've got something here. I actually ended up going back to that E note, and what that does is it sort of replicates what the piano is doing. If we look at that melody, we have that A, B, A, and then here in the guitar, we go E, F, E. And I suppose at the moment, this is kind of working as a counter melody, but we'll have a talk about counter melodies in a few minutes, so just stick around for that, and then we will add another melody to the track. First, I'm going to keep building this guitar and building this second section where I think I'm going to do similar to what I did with the piano and take it up, or I might actually do the opposite. I might bring it down and then take it back up to make that E note again. So I'm just going to do that and then we'll take a look at how we did it. Okay, so here we are. I've just finished putting those two sections together, followed the pattern of the piano. I took it from that E up to the A, and then we went up, up, up to another E. So we completed a whole octave range there. And then I sat it in the middle there on that B for a couple of bars and brought it down to a finish on the F sharp, which sits just above the E in the scale. And that is going to make it a really nice transition back to that E note. So it's a really nice tip for your melodies is think about the movement, think about how they're going to start, how they're going to finish, and how you're going to end up there. So now let's take a very quick look at adding in a counter melody. We do already kind of have two melodies that are playing together here, but let's have a look at just adding, say, a final counter melody. And what we want this counter melody to do is just fill the little pockets that are available and those little gaps in between where the piano and where the guitar aren't playing. So let's grab another sound. We'll grab this Midnight 2 sound from GMS, and this has a really nice echo, dreamy, pluck kind of sound. Let's take a listen here. And we can just use this to fill any gaps in the melody. So let's take a listen so far, and then we'll try and pick out some places where we can add this in. So there's a big gap here in between the 2 and the 3. We can fill that with our counter melody. And because we don't want this sound to just come in that section, what we'll do is we'll just copy some of these notes and just kind of keep it simple, do something like that. Let's see how that sounds. And you see, we've just plugged that little gap. do a similar thing at the end of the fourth bar as well. And then we'll set this to repeat. So let's take a listen to what we've got so far, and then we'll talk about how to mix these and how to make sure that there is enough space for all of them in your mix. So we now have all four of these sounds playing together, and it's sounding really lovely, really warm, but there is quite a lot going on in the headphones. This GMS sound is a little bit too loud, so let's mix that in properly. So let's just listen to it while we mix. When you are mixing your melodies and your counter melodies, think about the panning, think about the stereo separation. So you see here we've got two piano sounds, a guitar sound, and then a pluck. So all we need to do is separate those in the mix, and then they'll each really nicely have their space. I think what I would normally do is keep the top line in the middle but wide, the pluck a little bit to one side, and that piano counter melody a little bit to one side as well. So let's try that. So we'll just put this piano about 30% to the left, this pluck the same about 30% to the right, and then if we go into here, we can make that guitar sound really lush and really wide. All we'd need to add here is a bass and some drums, and we'd really have a great start to this beat. Now, I hope you found this video helpful. I really enjoyed playing around with this and talking through my process. I'm sure you may have a different way, you may have your own way. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, if you enjoyed this video, if there's things that you want to see me talking about, do let me know in those comments, or head on over to the community page and subscribe. But I think that's all for today. Peace.